Let's play a game. 2 truths and a lie. I'll go first. I had cancer twice. I climbed Mount Everest with 1 lung. I completed the World Championship Ironman triathlon. Which one do you think is the lie? Actually, there isn't one. They're all true. I know. That's not how this game works. Well, I figure this is my speech and my game, so it's okay. I don't share these 3 truths, no lie, to impress you. I share them because I think my experiences can help others see that we all have the ability to accomplish incredible things. While I'm talking about my journey, what I'm really doing is listening to yours. I'm hearing your frustrations, your fears, your worries. I'm hearing the words you tell yourself and the perspective you choose. I'm hearing you because you're no different than me. You're going to hear about some of my most transformational, terrifying, and transcendent moments. But today's not about me. It's about you. It's about the tremendous power you possess. A power that often goes unnoticed and untapped. But not today. Today, you're going to learn how to harness that power. You don't have to be a superhero, a cancer survivor, or a super athlete. You just have to be you, because that power is already within you. It's in the words you speak, the thoughts you hold, and the stories you tell yourself. It's in your perspective. Perspective is what saved me. It picked me up from hearing the word cancer to standing on top of Mount Everest, barely breathing, with 1 lung. Perspective taught me that impossible is only impossible if we allow it to be. And I want to share that perspective with you, not because I'm special, but because I have learned how to use this incredible strength within me. The same strength you have in you. I've faced the dark and seen the light, and what I've realized is that the light, your future, is within your control. People often talk about going back in time and what they tell their younger selves. But the better thought experiment is, what would your future self say to you today? Picture the person you want to be in a year. What would that wiser version of yourself say to you right now? The truth is, we can't change the past, but we can shape our future by changing our inner dialogue. I'm living proof that changing the way you talk to yourself changes your outcome. Now, I'm no different than you. You might not be climbing Everest, but that doesn't mean your journey is any easier than mine. We all have our own mountains, whether it's a personal struggle, a professional challenge, or an obstacle you can't quite put into words. Your summit is within reach, as long as you remember one thing: your words matter. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Okay, there's the lie. Words can hurt, but they can also heal. Words hold tremendous power. Words can make the difference between simply surviving or thriving. Words can save your life. I know they saved mine. I was your typical 13-year-old playing sports, hanging out with friends, a whole unwritten life ahead of me. And then a knee injury put me in the hospital, followed by words no one's ever prepared for. But I'm incredibly lucky. Despite their own fears, my parents somehow knew how to handle this diagnosis and me. Advanced stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma. When telling me about the diagnosis, my parents never said the word cancer. They told me I was sick. They told me I would get better. And because I implicitly trusted them, it must be true. So I believed it. That belief changed everything. I wasn't fighting for my life. I was just sick. Simple, right? Well, I mean, it wasn't easy, but because of my perspective, I thought I would get through it, and I did. At 13, I didn't understand the power of the words my parents chose, but they stuck. And as I got older, and some might argue wiser, I continued to reflect on that moment and all the tough ones that followed. I'm still in awe of the power of the words and thankful to my parents for choosing them. But despite beating it, my cancer story doesn't end there. Remember my first truth? That I had 2 types of cancer? Well, only a couple years later, when I was 16, right when I was starting to feel normal, I was diagnosed with a second cancer. This time, Askin sarcoma, an incredibly rare and aggressive type of cancer that attacked my right lung. Another terminal cancer. With these 2 cancers, I had a 0.000000001% chance of survival. They said, you have 14 days to live. 14 days? How do you even process something like that? You could just accept it and give up. No one would blame you. And I'll be honest, there were times I wanted to do that. But then I remembered the belief my parents instilled in me the first time around. So instead of being freaked out by the 14 days and the 99.9999999% death rate, I focused on the 0.000000001% chance of living. I didn't focus on not dying. I chose to focus on living. That shift in perspective made all the difference. Obviously it worked, or I wouldn't be standing here today. I defied the odds. I beat 2 terminal cancers, and I became that 0.000000001%. Which reminds me of another important lesson about the power of words. Always give or ask for the good news first. If my parents started by telling me there was a very slim chance of living, those words would have overpowered the rest that followed. That small spark of hope was all I needed to keep going. I'm not telling you to bury your head in the sand and avoid reality. I'm telling you to hold on to that sliver of hope. It's always there, even if it's hard to find. Then put it into words, create a mantra that shifts your perspective and changes your outcome. In my case, words and my perspective literally saved my life. I can guess what some of you are thinking, and I can see the skepticism on a few faces. The power of words? Right. If it were that easy, why is life so difficult sometimes? Valid. But here's the thing. Life will always have hard times. We can't change that. Words can't change that. I also recognize that just because I know it to be true doesn't mean you'll simply believe me. So let's back up some of my experiences with a little bit of science. Not too much to get boring, but just enough to bridge the gap between disbelief and discovery. Research done by people much smarter than me shows that words can physically alter our brain chemistry. Scientists like Maria Richter have done studies demonstrating that negative words release stress-inducing hormones that affect areas of the brain associated with fear and anxiety. Think about that. Something as simple as a word, spoken or even just in our heads, has the power to trigger stress, release cortisol, and alter how we feel on a deep physiological level. In another study, researchers found that telling girls that boys are better than they are at math can irritate them so much that it negatively impacts their performance. I don't know who is crazy enough to tell girls that boys were better than them at anything, but there it is. Words matter. It's the stories we tell ourselves that often have the greatest impact. Self-talk, the inner dialogue that runs through your heads, has a significant influence on how we behave. Have you ever found yourself saying, I'm not so sure about this, or I don't know if I'm good enough? That perspective doesn't just stay in your head. It manifests in your actions, limiting what you believe is possible. The science is scary, but even scarier is that our words don't just shape our thoughts. They have a profound impact on our behavior, performance, and our physical health. I remember when I was training to climb Everest, most people said, "You only have one lung. It's not physiologically possible." Those words could have easily stopped me from even attempting it. I could have told myself, maybe they're right. I can't do this. It's not possible. But I didn't listen. Instead, I told myself I was going to make it, not for me, but for the entire cancer community. My climb was going to be for everyone fighting their own battles. My summit was going to be their grasp for hope. I believed I could do it, and more than believed, I felt it in the core of my being. What I told myself, the story I chose to believe, became my reality. And when I finally reached the summit of Everest, it wasn't about standing on top of the world. It was a triumph of mindset. I proved to myself that words held immense power. That's the power of perspective. And if I can do it, so can you. The words we choose shape our reality. Change your words, change your life. Now that we've conquered the mountain, let's take this words as power concept a little bit further. Think about it. If we recognize that our perspective has the power to influence our thoughts and actions, then the next logical step, it can change our outcomes. It's like this. The language we use, whether consciously or unconsciously, creates a self-fulfilling prophecy for better or worse. A classic example is the gut feeling you're going to have a bad day. From the moment you wake up, you tell yourself, I just know today's not going to be a good day. And guess what? Your body, mind, and your soul accept that just as if it's already happened. So you start dragging your feet, you start seeing the world through a negative lens, and suddenly every minor inconvenience feels monumental. When you stub your toe, spill your coffee, or miss your train, it's not just bad luck. It's proof that your bad day prediction was correct. But was it a prediction, or was it the power of words? If you reflect back on that terrible, awful, no good, worst day ever, you might see that the universe wasn't conspiring against you. It was your mindset, your perspective that set the tone. Your brain was conditioned to expect the worst, so it acted accordingly. Your thoughts and your words created your reality. You're essentially failing before you even begin. The good news is you can flip the script. Positive, self-fulfilling prophecies are just as powerful. If you tell yourself, this is going to be a great experience, or I got this figured out, your brain will find ways to align with those beliefs. You might even find yourself taking risks, embracing challenges, and pushing yourself further than you ever thought possible. Your perspective becomes the catalyst for success. I was living proof of this when I decided to complete the Explorer's Grand Slam, the ultimate test of endurance, which involves climbing the highest mountain on every continent and skiing to both the North and South Poles. I've learned to use the power of words and perspective to shape my reality. And my reality is that I'm the only person in history who's done what I've done. But you're also the only person who's done what you've done. Everyone has their unique challenges and achievements. Only you can set your mind to what you can and will do. The narrative you choose directly influences your path. But it's not just about the narrative. It's also about how you act on the words you tell yourself. Every thought, every belief is laying the foundation for the next step. It's one thing to tell yourself a story, but it's another to make sure you're living it. After my first battle, my parents shaped my perspective. Every challenge since has been about the words I tell myself and the actions I take to make those words a reality. I decide for myself what is possible. And if I can do that, so can you. So as we come to the end of this journey together, I want you to remember something important. Today is not about climbing mountains, surviving cancer, or any other crazy adventure. It's clearly about something else, perspective. Today's about knowing how the stories we tell ourselves and the words we choose have the power to shape our reality. I want you to make the same choice I did when I was given 14 days to live. Choose your words carefully. Tell yourself you can, you will, you did. Because when you have the right perspective, there's no mountain too high, no challenge too great. Everything you need is already within you. You just have to have the right perspective. Thank you very much.